Friends, welcome to our Midweek Moment. Pastor Nicole here. So glad you clicked on. Well, this week we continued on in our sermon series, The Curious Questions of Christ, by talking about, I think, a question that probably hits at the heart of all of us, which is, why are you anxious? Why are you anxious? Why are you worried? What is stressing you out? So many things, right? On any given day, we could list a ton of things that are giving us stress and anxiety. Any number of things that we are worried about. It is just a part of being human that we have those kind of emotions, and it ebbs and flows. Sometimes are worse than others. Some parts of the week are worse than others. Some parts of the month are worse than others. Some parts of the year are worse than others. Some years are worse than other years. It's just sort of one of those human experiences that we have this pinching in our heart to carry stress and worry and anxiety. There are just things in our life that we're worried about. And Jesus knew that, and he understood that, and so he asked us this question. And in asking us this question kind of gives us a space to process, well, what am I anxious about, and what am I worried about? And sometimes we find that the core of what is really bothering us isn't at all what we thought it was, but it's maybe something a little deeper or something that has been masked by something else. So in the sermon this weekend, we talked a little bit about what are some practical things that we can do in order to combat anxiety in our lives? What are some things that we can do to help us kind of move past carrying that anxiety? So we talked about breath prayer, and we practiced that in the sermon this weekend. I hope that was a good experience for you if you were able to try that out. The other thing that we talked about was gratitude and how to be very specific in our gratitude. And another piece of that I wanted to get to in the sermon, but I just kind of ran out of time, was what John Wesley practiced in his life. So every Saturday, John Wesley, he was a very structured person, and so he did this every week. He took a personal gratitude inventory, and he asked himself 3 questions, and I'd like to share those with you. It's actually in the book, Questions Jesus Asked, that we're reading through for our Bible study in Lent. This is what the sermon series is kind of based on, so we're pulling from this, and I want to share those 3 questions that John Wesley asked. The first is, have I allotted some time for thanking God for the blessings of this past week? So he's taking time to say, have I paused to think about all the things that I have to be grateful for? That is probably a practice that a lot of us take part in. I hope we all do that pretty regularly, to just stop and think about what we are grateful for. But then he goes on to ask the second question, which I think is a little more difficult. He says, have I, in order to be more sensible of them, seriously and deliberately considered the several circumstances that attended them? So if we translate that into a more modern language, we might just be asking, is it possible that God was blessing me even when I didn't know it? Like, are there circumstances that, if now looking back, I can see that God was blessing me, even though in the moment maybe I missed it or I overlooked it? So that's the second question that John Wesley would ponder. The third is this: have I considered each of them as an obligation to greater love and consequently to stricter holiness? So in other words, are there blessings in my life that spur me on to bless others? Are there things that I should be grateful for that are helping me to serve others, to become more holy, to share God's love with other people? And what might those things be? So those are John Wesley's 3 questions. I think they're actually pretty brilliant. That John Wesley up there, that guy was pretty smart. And I wonder how our lives might be changed if we too had a regular practice of asking ourselves these 3 questions. Have I given myself time and space to process what I'm grateful for? Are there things that maybe I missed the first time around and didn't really see them as blessings, but they were in fact God working in my life? And 3, how is God using my life circumstances to help me help somebody else? How is God using the things that he's blessed me with so that I can bless somebody else? I think when we can start focusing on gratitude, focusing on how God is working in our lives, focus on serving others, it really helps to pull us out of our situation of worry and anxiety. You know, sometimes when we're in those situations, we just kind of get like so bogged down in our own little situation that we can only see with blinders on, like our own situation and our own stress and strain. And I think what John Wesley is inviting us to here is to open that up a little bit and to realize, oh, it's not just me in the world, and it's not just me having a hard time in the world, and we're going through this together. And so how can we be in it better together? I think that's what Jesus is doing in the passage of scripture we looked at this weekend. You know, he's inviting us to look at the lilies of the field and to say, hey, look, you're a part of this creation. God's not just going to abandon you. He's taking care of the flowers. And don't you mean so much more to him than flowers? Trust him, follow him, lean on him. It's going to be okay. So if you're going through an extra stressful time right now, I hope that one of those practices might be helpful to you, whether it be that breath prayer that we practiced in the sermon, or whether it be a gratitude journal, or taking a look at those questions that John Wesley pondered. All of those things can help us. It's not going to fix our situation. It's not going to like clear up everything that we're worried and anxious about, but it might help us have a clearer head, and it might help us to be able to rely on Jesus a little bit more strongly. So I hope you know that if you are going through something that you need to talk about, I am here to talk to you, even if you don't know me, even if you just found me online, that's okay. Contact me. We will find a way to have that conversation. If you do know me, send me a message, send me a text, send me an email. Let me know what's going on in your life so I can pray for you. We're not going through this alone, and you shouldn't be expected to go through it alone. So if you've got a lot of stress and strain in your life, please let me pray for you. And I hope that you know God is with you. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Join us this weekend as we take a look at another question Jesus asked: what are you living for? What are you living for? So we'll take a look at that this weekend. Join us, whether in person or online, and we'll see you all later. Bye.